Hello everybody, my name is Rolo, and today we're reading more Reddit stories. So if that's your cup of tea, please do like and subscribe, and let's get into today's first story. Today's first story comes from the user The Next Mrs. Draper with the title, Neighbour says they saw a tent in my living room. I honestly don't know what to make of this. The simplest answer is that my neighbour is lying, but why? Here's what happened. This morning, my neighbour knocked on my door and told me that while I was out of town earlier this month, they noticed my front door was open and that a very nice blue and brown two-person tent had been pitched in the middle of my living room. They said they thought it was a little odd and that's why they mentioned it. I was on vacation over the 4th of July and my nephew and other neighbour both fed my cat while I was gone. Neither are the type to pitch a tent in my living room, but to be honest, I'm not sure who would do such a thing. Nevertheless, I asked them about the tent and neither knew anything about it. I also don't have anything that's blue and brown and could be mistaken for a tent. My living room is mostly black and white. I also don't own a tent. I'm not a camper. Nobody has a set of keys to my house. I have an Rolo camera by my front door and I set one up in my living room while I was gone so that I could periodically check in on the cat. I'm a little neurotic about her because she's very old. I checked all the footage going back to June 4th because my neighbour couldn't say for certain when exactly they saw this tent. Needless to say, there's nothing captured by either camera. Unfortunately, the cameras do sometimes fail to capture everything. I'd say they have a 10 to 20% fail rate when it comes to turning on when there's movement. So there's a slight possibility someone could have entered my house, pitched a tent, taken it down and left, and the cameras wouldn't have caught any of it. But I feel like that's a pretty slim chance that neither would have been triggered. To add to all of this, my cat has been acting super strange ever since I came back. She's very nervous, refuses to go anywhere near the back part of the house, and is not using her litter box, so something did weird her out. So Reddit, any ideas? If my neighbour is lying, which is the most plausible, why? They've never lied before and always seemed like a reliable narrator. They also said their boyfriend saw it too and mentioned how weird it was. Is there any scenario where it makes sense for someone to break in and pitch a tent, but also leave the door open so anyone can see? Is it a glitch in the Matrix? Is she somehow suffering from carbon monoxide poisoning? Am I? Thankfully, the Rolo camera outside did capture parts of our conversation, so I didn't completely imagine it. It's just so fucking bizarre. I'm just at a complete loss. The whole thing has left me feeling unsettled. Yeah, definitely a weird situation, but I'm very confused how the neighbors saw this tent inside your living room and how they knew that your door was unlocked. Did they just let themselves into your house? Like, OP not questioning that at all is really confusing to me because how did the neighbors see this? Did you have your curtains wide open? Did they look in the window? Did they check the door? I mean, they said they knew that the door was unlocked, so they must have checked the door, right? Very weird situation all around, but there's no mention of the neighbor's age, so perhaps they are just elderly and they were confused, or they mixed up a memory that they had. If they're young, then drugs maybe? I don't know. But enough of the speculation. Let's move on to OP's edit, where they clarified some information, and then let's move on to their update. Edit. Thanks to everyone who's commented so far. To answer some questions that seem to have come up. 1. I took the cat to the vet and she got a clean bill of health. I'm trying some behavioral situations, multiple litter pens, special cat food for urine health, calming cat treats, calming spray, feel away plug-in, etc. It's been hard, but I'm committed to helping her get through this. 2. The neighbour and her boyfriend are both older. I think in their late 60s, and we live on the same property, so she has to walk by my front door to get to the street. I'd say from the walkway to my front door is less than 5 feet, so she has a pretty good view of my living room. I agree with those who said her timing is strange. Why mention it weeks later? But I had recently talked to her about my cat's behaviour, so I think she mentioned it as a possible reason for the cat's behaviour. She did say, maybe in the future, you should let me know you'll be out of town so I can keep an eye out for you. At the time, it sounded like a normal thing to say, but if she's lying, then maybe it's because she wants to know when I'm gone. 3. My nephew is in his mid-20s and very responsible. He owns his own home and works long days. Neither he nor his brother are campers, and as far as I know, don't own any tents. The camera outside captured him entering and exiting all 3 days, and he was in the house for less than 5 minutes. Same with the other neighbor who fed the cat. She came over 3 times, all for less than 5 minutes. Neither was aware of where the camera was inside, but they knew I had one so I could check the cat. The camera also caught the cat chilling out in the house, and all 3 days she was acting normally. 4. Today I learned about frogging. Lol. There is a crawl space under the house, but you can't access it from inside. There's probably a 2-foot high crawl space in the ceiling that you can access from the closet in my bedroom, but I have a bunch of boxes and suitcases shoved up against the opening, and I don't see how someone could put them back if they crawled back in. I will say that the more I ruminate on it, the creepier it seems. And on to OP's update. So I spoke to all my neighbors again today. The neighbor who saw the tent is still adamant that's what she saw. She said her and her boyfriend saw it around lunchtime, and he confirmed. They said the tent was up when they went to lunch and down by the time they came back. When I told her my cameras didn't catch anything, she was unbothered. When I suggested that maybe she saw something else, she said, "It was not my imagination. I saw a tent from right here." And then she stood on the walkway and pointed into my house. She seems to think someone might have a copy of my key and is accessing my house whenever I'm out of town. She thinks someone sabotaged both cameras and mentioned black suits that aren't picked up by security cameras as the reason why the tent section wasn't caught. She also mentioned that my other neighbor, the one who checked on my cat, had a large white tent in her yard a few months back. I saw that tent and can verify it existed, but this neighbor said that is not the tent she saw in my house. I rechecked all the camera footage one more time. There are no unaccounted for gaps. In fact, there are several snippets of the cat chilling in the living room looking completely unconcerned before and after the cat sitters came into the house. It's actually making me rethink the timeline of when she got spooked. I rechecked the attic access and it hasn't been touched. I also work from home, so it would be hard for someone squatting in the attic to go unnoticed. I also took the advice here to check internet data and electricity usage. Both were way down on the days I was gone. My gas bill was smaller as well, but if the tent was only up for an hour, that makes sense. So then, I spoke with the cat-sitting neighbor. She confirmed the existence of her white tent and explained that she was airing it out in her front yard after a camping trip, which aligns with all the tent care information in the comments. She also said that she has had similar conversations with this neighbor where what she is saying is bizarre and unsettling, but she says it with such conviction that you find it hard not to believe. She also understood my unease, saying the whole story reminded her of the Manson family and their creepy crawling. Once she mentioned that possibility, it made me understand why I was feeling so anxious. I have read about the creepy crawling, and the Manson family was a boogie monster for me growing up. For those worried about my cat's well-being, thank you. She seems to be slowly coming back to herself. Right now, I'm putting her in the kitchen at night, and she has a cozy little bed where she sleeps. So far, she hasn't peed anywhere inside since I've started doing this, but I do wake up before 6 every morning to let her out, and she promptly uses the litter pan I have set up for her on the porch. I also started using the urinary health cat food from Royal Cane that someone suggested on another thread, and that seems to be working. Fingers crossed. Next steps: asking the landlords to change the locks. To end on a lighter note, cat-sitting neighbor also had a whimsical explanation, not to be taken seriously and just for fun, that I also thought I'd share. Apparently there's a Japanese folklore tradition of trickster raccoons who shapeshift and wreak havoc. She pointed out that it is raccoon season where we live, and in fact, I just saw a mother and her babies by my porch a couple of nights ago, and maybe they snuck in and pitched the tent just to mess with me. I mean, it's as plausible as anything else at this point. Before we go into OP's second update, I do just want to jump in and say, if OP's cat is an outdoor cat, isn't it more plausible that she got spooked by something outside rather than this mysterious tent that was pitched? I just had to say that before we move on, but yes, here is OP's second update. Second update. this update will probably be more than a little anticlimactic, and for that, I apologize. To the people who felt like this was much ado about nothing, I agree, but like I said before, it's her continued insistence and certainty about this bizarre idea that niggles at me. So, away we go. 1. The boyfriend does indeed exist. I've met him and spoken with him several times. He seems older than her and is quieter overall. He has stated that he's a cat person and has engaged with my cat in the past, but I have not had the chance to talk to him separately to get his side of the story. 2. The white tent was in the front yard of my other neighbour's house and faces the opposite street, so a reflection is impossible. That being said, the older neighbour does keep bringing it up and is convinced people were sleeping in it. I've spoken with the front yard neighbour and she was airing out the tent after a camping trip. No one ever slept in it when it was in her yard, but I think a lot of folks in the comments are correct when they say the white tent unsettled the older neighbour because she brought it up several times. 3. I did loop in the landlords, but they seem to also believe the older neighbour. She's rented from them for at least 15 years, if not longer, and they told me that in the past she's been very reliable and truthful. They seemed spooked by the whole story and offered to change the locks. I figured it can't hurt, so I agreed. 4. The landlords and I questioned the older neighbour pretty rigorously and she stuck by her story, even as we all expressed incredulity. She reiterated that she saw a 2-person tent, blue and white, fully erected in my front living room. She said it was not a pop-up tent or pup tent. She said she saw it on a Wednesday because that's the day her boyfriend takes her to lunch each week. She said it was up when he picked her up and down when he dropped her off. She got a little defensive as we probed, so people who warned that this could happen if we challenged her was spot on. She kept reiterating that it was a tent and that she could see it quite clearly. She seems to want to pin it on my nephew, and the landlord seems to be leaning that way too, which is really frustrating. He's a 25-year-old man with his own home. He has no need to air a tent out in my tiny living room, and he doesn't even camp. 5. The cameras. I double-checked every Wednesday for the last 2 months. That's the limit for the stored videos. No tent. No people entering my house, no footage of her and her boyfriend stirring into my house. That being said, there's one Wednesday with no footage because the battery had died and I forgot to charge it, but I was home. There's only one Wednesday that I went out of town, but I left after 4 p.m. and returned in less than 24 hours. I still feel like this is pretty solid evidence of no tent, but I have to allow for the fact that the cameras were not fully operational. 6. The cat is slowly getting better, though we had a setback today when she peed in the kitchen after the gardeners scared her. She is consistently using the litter pan I set up for her outside with no problem. She just refuses to use any litter pan anywhere inside. I have one in the kitchen, one by the front door, and one in the pantry, and one in the bathroom. She will only use the one outside. I do think the calming food is helping since we're down to just one accident, and it was on the puppy pads. I am keeping her in the kitchen at night and letting her out before 6 a.m. every day. Hopefully I can eventually get her to use her litter pan inside. 7. Raccoon season. I think my front neighbour used this phrase because it's baby season right now. We have a mum and 2 kids that hang out in our property. If you've never seen a baby raccoon, you are missing out. They are adorable. So like I said at the beginning, not much of a resolution. At this point, I just want to put the whole thing to rest. I'm changing the locks, so if there are mystery indoor campers, or mischievous raccoons, with a copy of my key, they'll have to find another locale for their shenanigans. I'll stop questioning the neighbour because she's adamant, and now it feels a little weird to keep harping on it. I'll endeavour to be patient and kind to my cat so that she gets back to her old self. And that's the end of the saga. I'm surprised by how much attention this all got. Reddit says almost 1.5 million people looked at the post and the update. That's nuts. Thanks everyone for all your comments, suggestions, insights, and comic relief. Even the snarky comments made me laugh. And that is where OP left us. What do you guys think of this story? Who do you think is responsible for this intent that could or could not exist? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for reading along with me today, and see you next time. Bye bye!